Welcome to Breaking the Chains. I am Bakita, and today I am here with Kim. We are going to be talking about relationships, our intercultural marriages. Kim is married to a Ghanaian. Kim, can you introduce yourself and let us
Hello,
know what's going on?
my name is Kim Kwachi. I have known my husband since 2006. We've been married since 2010. Um, Obviously, he was born in Ghana. I was born in a small town in Arkansas, raised for most of my life in Columbus, Ohio. And we have two children, ages 10 and 7. Oh, actually, I'm about to have an 11-year-old on Wednesday. So ages 11 and 7. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
11. Oh,
Mhm.
gosh. So y'all been married for 11 years now?
Yeah, 11 years. Yeah, so actually when we do the math, we had our son about almost exactly 4 years after the day we met. So I think we met like November 11th, 2006, and we had our son November 17th, 2010. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
So how did you meet your husband?
We used to lie and be like, oh, we met through a mutual friend, but we met on MySpace. That's our mutual friend.
MySpace was a mutual friend.
But
That's so
it wasn't
cool.
on purpose. Yeah, looking back, I always say that was nothing but God, because I was new to MySpace. I thought it was like creepy. I didn't understand it. And you used to have the music on your profiles.
Yeah.
So I love reggae. I had, of course I had a cute picture
Of
and some
course.
reggae music. And he was probably the first person that reached out to me like with proper grammar. If you know a Ghanaian, then
Yeah.
that's not a surprise. So yeah, we just went from there. We just kind of like dated loosely for the first year, and then became exclusive.
Oh.
Almost like a year later, yeah.
So was he already here or was he in
Yeah,
Ghana?
he was here. He had gone to school in West Virginia, gone to a university in West Virginia, and then he had lived I think in North Carolina, and then he moved to Ohio. So he'd been here for a while.
Oh, okay. So what would you say was like one of the biggest differences in you dating a Ghanaian and dating an African American man?
Um, I think he was just so regimented. Like I remember, I always tease him about that. I was like, I say, you look like you sold prepaid legal or something. Like, he just like his profile just had like the suit and tie. And not that I hadn't seen that, or not that I had dated bums, but he was just like so regimented, so black and white. And I even tease him now. I was like, you pay your bills on time, like. You were just so I think that was one thing. Like he was just uncompromising, and it bothered me a little bit, but it also helped me level up. So but other than that, like I didn't really experience a lot of like how he treated me. I didn't experience a lot of that. I mean, he wasn't into he was just very black and white. Like he didn't want to date anybody with kids. Like I knew if I had kids, he would just be like, no. He was just so, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to do it. And then he was just very serious and very
Okay.
determined. So again, not that I had dated bums, but it was just like there was always some wiggle room before. But him, it was just like no.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I feel like I noticed.
That's cool. So um as far as like culturally with going out and all of that, maybe because he had already been here that it might have been, was it not a difference, or it was just like, yeah, we did pretty much the same thing that.
Yeah, I think because he was here by himself. So
Mhm.
people, I used to hate when people say, "Is he westernized?" And I'm like, I don't. I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, he was westernized, that's why it wasn't a big deal. Like he's definitely Ghanaian true and through. I think like I've noticed now, like his family was just different. Like his mom wasn't like just always in the house, and she traveled a lot. She was out and about. None of his sisters, like when I would meet them, it wasn't like they weren't what you would consider, traditional. Like they just did their own thing. So I think it was that he had been here first, but I just think his background also was a little different. And I just think this will like his when I met his friends, they were just like, yeah, like he was always like a little different. Like he would go off the beaten path a little bit. I think him going to college here definitely had a lot to do with it. And then when he moved to Columbus, like his group of friends, I think it took a little bit longer for him to find his like Ghanaian community here. So you acclimate,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. So when it seems as though maybe well, the difference with you and your husband with me and my husband was in Ghana. And he had a lot of acclimating to do when he got here. Yeah. So how did you what was it that made you decide, I think this guy is I think I want to marry him and instead of marrying an African American man?
Oh my gosh. So first of all, we were both coming out of long-term relationships. And I think like I just wanted to play around. Like when I first met him, he was not my type and I was not his type.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we just weren't we always say like had we passed each other in the grocery store, we probably wouldn't have stopped. He had never dated an African American.
Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, he just, and then when he found out, this is so funny, when he found out like I didn't go to college, he was like, really? I was like, yeah, he's like, I just never thought I would date anybody that didn't go to college. And I'm like, well, still your degree, because you should have sense enough to know that that information is not like exclusive
Right.
to those 4 walls. So I think, we just like dated for a year. We had a lot of fun, dated for a year. And then of course, because he's so like does what makes sense. So he had to like lock me in a year later. And it's odd because I'm a romantic and I was thinking about falling in love and just being in love. But we moved in together before we even said we love each other, which was not,
Wow.
I don't even move like that. Like everybody was shy. The fact that I met somebody on MySpace, I was so square. Like people were just like, you meeting a stranger on MySpace. But anyways, I just think that he was so honest. Like, I ain't dated a lot of bums, but I dated a whole bunch of liars.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say a whole bunch, like my previous relationship, but he was so honest when he didn't have to be. And I just knew that, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And, but he still, even though like we were like dating, like he still didn't move toward we just didn't move towards the I love you like quick. And I just kind of got to a point like, dang, is this really what I want to do? And he's so academic, like even when he said I love you, it was like a lecture. It was just like, I'm like, is this your thesis? Like what are we saying? What are we saying? And I just think because he took all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
And he took all the guesswork out of like dating and life, but he also wasn't boring. Because sometimes when my last relationship was passionate and it was like I thought that was it for me. And I always thought that like whatever followed that, I would be settling.
Yeah.
But because it was safe. Like I was like, Lord, I don't want to just choose somebody because it's safe. But he was safe, he was fun, and he just took all of the BS out of it. And that's not saying he's perfect, but he is very honest and he has a lot of integrity. And
Yeah.
I just knew based on my previous relationship, I just knew that I didn't want anything less than that. So we moved really slow. I always say we didn't fall in love. We like tiptoed
Y'all
and
grew in love.
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And then it just like spread like wildfire. Like he's just very, very, he's just like a really, really, really good person. Really good
Yeah.
person. I mean, he's hard headed, but he's a good person.
Aren't they all?
And it wasn't and it wasn't me even comparing him, like making a decision to date Ghanaian versus African American. It was just me choosing him over everybody else, because the same issues still, I mean, men, but I do think him being Ghanaian like led to who he is, but
Yeah,
I wasn't necessarily choosing to date like an African man per se.
right. So we are in a group together, and I think I've seen you in a couple of the other groups at some point in time. I don't belong to many of the groups anymore,
Mhm,
but one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of women and Ghanaian men is the age difference.
mhm.
Many times the women are a lot older than the men. What is your age difference with you and your husband?
That's so funny because he definitely tells me I'm his I'm his sugar mama, but I'm only 6 months older than him. I'm only 6, and he
Months.
yeah, he loves that. Said I'm his I'm his sugar mama, but I'm only 6 months. My birthday is May 2nd, his is October 26th. So
Oh, you're
yeah.
a Taurus like me.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm May 18. Um, yeah, that's good. 6 months. That's nothing.
No, it's not.
Most of the time, like I'm 5 years older than my husband.
Are
But a
you?
lot
I
of
would have never guessed that.
yeah, I you can't tell. He's like a little old man. Well, a big old man, but uh
Mhm.
he's a very um mature for his age.
Mhm.
So it, you know, that's how it worked for me because
Okay.
he just happened to be a pretty mature person for his age. Um, but when when I see like you're probably the first woman that I'm meeting that's the same age as her husband. Like many times,
Really?
yeah, many times the women are much older. But what I think that happens because men in Ghana, they usually get married young,
Yes. Mhm.
and so you don't find a lot of men that are available or truly available
True,
at,
true.
in the
Yeah.
30s going into 40s.
I didn't think about it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. So
But then you have to ask yourself, I mean, I guess they're still on the market because they're young. Okay, never mind.
well, what I've learned, and I don't know, maybe you've seen the same thing, but what I've learned is like Ghanaian men in Ghana
Mhm.
tend to mature later as far as like the dating part of things and being with the
Mhm.
women
Mhm.
part of things. I think they tend to, our men start having sex around teenage years.
Right, right.
They usually start 20, 25 years old is when they
True.
really start getting moving in that, which then leads them and they usually the way they choose women is very different also. Like they seem to just like, okay, I met you, I like you, we getting married.
Yeah.
And for our guys, it's more like, nah, we need to date. We gotta be together for at least 2 years. We need to live together. We gotta go through all of these things first before we even consider it. Um, but most of the time with, we see it all the time. These women,
Mhm.
they meet men that's in a similar way that you
Yep.
met your husband,
Mhm.
but the men are on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Um, and they're usually younger. Um, but I'm glad to finally meet somebody who has a husband that's the same age as her.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
that's pretty doggone cool because it's not if we really like, I'm sure if we did a real like survey and took the statistics 9 times out of 10, or maybe let's say 8 times out of 10,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
woman is
You're
going to be
right.
older. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see, like now that I pay attention, I always say I'm happy that I wasn't on Facebook. Was
Mhm.
Facebook even around? I don't know, but I wasn't really a
I-
social media. I didn't get on Facebook until 2009, and that was like a few weeks after he and I got engaged. That's when I got on Facebook. So I didn't know. Of course, like I knew some of the stereotypes, like with dating, and I'm just going to say African men, not because I'm ignorant. Like I know that there's different countries, but
Right.
like I live in Columbus, Ohio, so like we have Somali, Ethiopian, like big populations, like East African and West African mostly. So I knew that there were like some stereotypes, and I kind of knew what to watch out for, but there was just certain things I just was not even aware of. But like the more and more I look, you do see these relationships a lot of times fitting in certain boxes.
Yeah.
um yeah, the whole, what do they call them, the May December romances, but it's the
Yeah.
women that are older. Yeah, so I'm lucky, like I wasn't I don't know if I would have dated anybody younger, because like luckily I met my husband right at a time where um I was just very much like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I am who I am. Like I was very much take me or leave me. So I'm happy I was like not really up for the BS. Like,
Yeah.
and not saying that those relationships are, always BS, but um that's typically how people, when they see that dynamic, it always makes people think,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Oh
what's
yeah.
going on
Believe me, I
here?
know I've been through it. I've been through it. People make a lot of assumptions. But in being honest, relationships are hard
They are, yeah.
begin to begin with. You're taking your life and your life experiences and someone else and their life experiences, and you pushing them all together. And you know, it's not always as simple as, okay, we love each other and we gonna make it work.
I'm just now starting, like I'll ask my husband, because it never really dawned on me before. Like I have a very good intuition. It never even dawned on me that it was anything other than legit. But now when I think back to like we would like go to these stores and things, and like I would say, what are they asking you? So I'll ask him now, like, has anybody ever asked you if this was like legit, because I
Yeah.
remember going to this one store, and just how the lady was with me, and I'm like, oh, she's like upset with him, thinking this is a paper chase. And I remember he told me one time, like, oh, she asked me why you, and I'm like, well, what she mean, why me?
What you mean?
But I get it now. She was like, this particular lady had good intentions. She was fussing at him like, you better not be on no
Yeah.
mess. That's what she. But then it made me think, wow, like some people were probably really out there side eyeing our relationship, and it never ever dawned on me that,
Yeah.
yeah, that like I may have thought about it in the beginning, like but then when I just realized, like, he's just so, he don't have time for that. He just
Yeah.
would not, he could not even see it through, and that's not me bragging. That's
Yeah.
me
No, no,
like,
no.
he just,
You know you married.
yeah. But I'm like, man, I bet you people have like really questioned this before, and it really dawned on me when I started like questioning other people, because the more you're around certain situations, I think you can kind of tell. Like I honestly can see something, and I'll know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's hurtful, and it's like, I value my marriage. I wouldn't want anybody like looking at my marriage with the evil eyes. So I try to be very respectful of that, and I try not to like speak on it too much for people in, like, for particular couples. But I always call it. Like I just,
So what are some of the things that you would say you can see, like being an outsider looking in? Because I'm sure we see the same thing. Um,
mm,
but as an outsider looking in, what are some of the things that you're like, oh yeah, that's clear. This is a clear indication that this is not what homegirl
I,
think it is.
I think, oh God, this is gonna sound horrible, but I'm gonna try to put it as delicately as possible.
Yeah.
So I think that I think opposites attract. I do believe that my husband and I are opposite in so many ways. But if you see what your mate has grown up around, right? And they're in their 20s, 30s, whatever, you see what they've grown up around, that typically is going to kind of become their taste. Like, and I'm just talking about aesthetically, right?
Yeah.
Um, build, things like that. If you are the exact opposite of what you know that they've seen and they've grown to love, and you're the exact opposite, you're the exact opposite for everything that they've grown up around.
Right.
There's like hardly any similarities. That's a red flag. I mean, the age difference, can it happen? It can. Are there successful marriages out there like that? Definitely. But it is a red flag. It deserves some more digging. If they don't want, like, I've had people say, oh yeah, he doesn't want me to learn his language, or he doesn't want me around his friends. If he doesn't want to have you inside like the fibers of his life, that's
Right.
like I've had people that have said, oh, yeah, he doesn't want to teach me or the kids. Well, why wouldn't he want to teach you guys treat? Like, I don't know. I mean, I know some words. I can get things in context, but it's not like, oh, Felix
I
doesn't
don't
want
want you to.
Yeah, just things like that. Like, if they kind of like compartmentalize your relationship, don't really want to bring you into it. And those are just like the easy, if they let people talk crazy to you.
Yeah.
That right, because there are just certain things that I feel like happen with love, and like with inside a marriage. Like, you want to feel protected. Yeah, so I've seen things like that, and I'm just like, that's not really it for you.
Right. So, a minute ago, you were mentioning when you guys were in the store that the woman was thinking that this could be like a money thing, right?
Uh-huh.
So, speaking of money,
Uh-huh.
money tends to come up a lot.
Uh-huh.
And early in my marriage, I had a woman say to me that, oh, when you get an African man, and African, just saying African, not because I don't know that it's 54 other countries, but
Yeah,
you got to put that little disclaimer in there. But
exactly.
when you get an African man, you're gonna have somebody to take care of you and do all of these things. Like, I hadn't ever heard things like that come from people. This was actually my sister-in-law, not my husband's sister, but my brother-in-law's wife had made some statements to me like, oh, like maybe she thought that I was marrying my husband for the same reasons that she married her husband, which was because she wanted somebody to take care of her, and she felt like she can get this African man to take care of her. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Kind of like, only like, well, compared to African American men, like an African man is going to be there, he's going to take care of you, he's going to be your protector, blah blah, versus, because I remember years ago, that's how African men used to come on to me, by dissing African American men. So I've heard it like in that context, like, get them because they're steady, they're going to take care of you, they're strong. So, but I think the unique thing about my background is me dating like someone from Ghana wasn't a big stretch for my friend group. Now, people on the fringes, yeah, like there was a lot of ignorance, but it was more warnings than anything. Like, oh, you don't have to be sending your money to take care of X, like just little ignorant stuff, but not a lot of like it being a paper chase in reverse, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
So speaking of the dynamic of sending money to
Uh-huh.
Africa. I know a lot of times that comes up, and people, we're, coming from our culture. I mean, we don't send money across the water because we don't have nobody
That's
across the
good.
water,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
So how did you all deal with like those kind of cultural things? Like it is a norm to,
Mm-hmm.
if a foreigner, not just an African, but if a
Mm-hmm.
foreigner is here, they tend to send some money home. Because the money from here usually goes a little. They can send $100 home, and it may go a good ways there. How did you all, or did you all ever have to navigate those kinds of issues?
So it was definitely different for me. So you're a Southern girl, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so what I'm realizing is there's a lot of parallels between being born in the South and then like West African.
yeah,
Um, there are just so many things. So what I realize is, as we grow up in the South, we're gonna take care of our mama and our daddy. Like you always hear,
exactly.
I gotta do this for my mama, but it's not as formal. But
Right,
we're gonna do what we can. I felt like I had to get used to like, no, that's a very formal thing. Like you're not skipping a month. Like this is what's expected. Um, and then I had to realize it wasn't because they're poor. It's just because that's the right thing to do. Like they've sacrificed, um,
mhm,
they sacrificed and sent you abroad. And I really had to like wrap my mind around the formality of it. Like because there's so many things. Like it may be exactly what we would do at home. I'll do whatever for my mom, but I don't have to do it every single month.
right.
So that took a lot for me. So we had to make it a budget like item. So it's on the budget. But there was never, I think that's also another red flag too. Like if you guys are in a position, like if a couple is in a position where they don't have it, and like you really do not have it, not having your family, your household go hungry to send money home. Because I know that there are people that's like, we don't have it, but we're still sending money home. Well, that probably that just really doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
And if it happens over and over and over again, like our electricity is being turned off, but you still are sending
But
money.
you still sending money, yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't dealt with that. We just know that like we send we because for me, I'm like, I don't want anybody asking a question if my mama needs something and my mom or daddy needs something. Like
Okay.
so I understood it. It's just I feel like it's just I don't know if formal is the right word, but it's just way more like this
It's
is
like a on, like it's gotta be done. Like
yeah, it's expected.
it's
Yeah.
expected. That's the word,
Yeah. Yeah,
expected.
it's expected and but that's like you said, that's just something I don't think I had a problem with. I just didn't understand it. I
Right.
did not understand. And he was more lax about it. And then when the more I knew and the more I understood, I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing the budget. Let me put this in there because this is just what makes sense because I don't want people calling, needing
Yeah.
something. So let's just have it, it goes out every month and then that's it. But I think that took a lot for me to understand. Like I'm just like, oh well, we did XYZ last month, and it's like, no, like that's
Every month.
every month. Yeah, that's every month. So yeah.
So you have children, and like you just mentioned, being a Southerner and being married to a West African, at least, it seems a lot of things kind of run parallel. So
Hmm.
I know for me, it hasn't. I mean, there have been some cultural things that have been like you mentioned with the this money thing. That's been
Hmm.
kind of like a okay.
Yeah.
What are some things that you like? What was like a major thing that you just couldn't really like? It's like, bruh, what in the is this?
uh, I'm trying to think if there was anything from him. It just took a really long time, and I don't know if this is like just a Ghanaian thing or like a boarding school thing, but the whole like just being um black and white on some things, and like I think you've talked about it a few times, like just the words that you would use would maybe be offensive. Um, he was just very, very black and white, and I just could not wrap my head
Yeah,
around it. Like I
that
just,
that's tough.
yeah, like I just could not. And I think schooling, like schooling is very important to me, but how they see it as like the end all and begin all, and but I've seen it pay off, so I've kind of like fallen back on that a little bit. Like I
Yeah,
kind of, it's benefited the kids to have me and to have him. But again, that was just something he was just so strict about. Like, there's no A, no B's coming in this house, and da 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 da. And I always tell him that he'd rather see, he's okay with our kids. He's okay witnessing our kids struggle. Where I'm just like, okay, like I want you guys to be tough, but at some point, like let me navigate you through. I don't want to save you, but
yeah.
let me help you navigate.
Let me help you.
But he's just kind of like, no, like it just is what it is. And I feel like that's one thing we kind of go back and forth about. Like I feel like he thinks that's the only way for them to be um so tough is if they struggle. But I'm like,
Yeah,
you're not sending my kids to boarding school though. Like they don't gotta
I
struggle.
know.
They don't have to struggle in the bush. Like
I do.
they don't have to do that. So he's very big on that. But I did hear him tell our son the other day, you know, not that he considers his country a third world country, but there are people there starving. So I can't let you sit up and cry because I put a green grape in your lunch and you wanted a purple grape.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's like you can't be a product out of my household. Say you come from my household and then that's how you act. Like I can't, as your father, like I can't let that happen. And I don't know if I would have taken the lesson that far because he definitely, but he brought it home. I'm like,
yeah,
I 100% get it. So just like those lessons regarding struggle, like he and I tell them sometimes, I'm like, I feel like you want us, you want them to have a scarcity mindset. Like, where's this coming? And he's like, no, I'm just afraid that they won't know how I'm afraid that I won't be here and they won't know how to handle it.
yeah. They
So
can't survive. Yeah.
yeah, so that was, I feel like that was kind of cultural. Like that took a long time for me to get. It's girl, we 11 years in the game and I'm still wrapping my mind around it.
Listen, I'm 10 years in, and it's
I'm
still
like,
some things we just be like, but
yeah,
I mean, it is what it is. Now, you have been to Ghana. How many times have you been to
I've
Ghana?
only been once. We went in 2019.
Okay, you went to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
What was the lead up to that? Like, how did you all decide y'all were going to Ghana?
So we had been talking about it since we like had before we got married. Like we had thought that we would go there for our honeymoon, but his friends were like, "No, that would not be a honeymoon." And for me, naive, I didn't get. I'm like, why they acting like we can go to Ghana? They were like, it's not going to be relaxing. That's not where you should go for your honeymoon. And but then I got pregnant. So I got walked down the aisle 4.5 months pregnant. So that was a no-go. But then for years, I don't know why we thought ourselves that we just couldn't afford it. We just thought that it would cost all this money. We couldn't afford it. So finally, his dad's 10-year memorial. So his dad passed away in 2009. So I didn't go to the funeral. We didn't do the 3-year. So we were like, we have to go in
Yeah,
2019. And so that was a lead up. It was kind of non-negotiable. And then I just kind of felt like I never want my kids to feel like Ghana some strange foreign
yeah,
land. Like I want it to be home. So that's really important to me. I think he may take it for granted sometimes, but for me, I don't want them to just be like American.
yeah,
Um, So that was a lead up to it. We planned for a year. It was way easier, than we thought. I don't know why we just thought we couldn't. I don't know. I
I
have no
I
idea.
think a
But we
lot of
didn't
people
prioritize it. That was the thing. We didn't prioritize it. Looking
I
back.
think a lot of people kind of anticipate taking a trip to Ghana to be like this big whoop-de-doo thing. Like, I
Mhm.
think Ghana is probably more affordable to go to than Hawaii. Um,
It is. It
so,
is. Yeah.
so tell me about your trip. Like, how was that? Like, how you were traveling with two children?
Yeah.
I've traveled with children, so I know how that is. And
So
then getting to Ghana and about, how was it?
yeah. So we flew to New York first and we stayed overnight. And then we flew from New York. Um, where did we fly into? Abidjan, I think. We had a very long layover in Abidjan and then on to Ghana. Um, it was nice. Like I have to be honest, like being there was beautiful. But when people talk about this overwhelming feeling when they hit the soil, like I didn't get that. Like I didn't feel like, oh, this is home. Like my feelings were more about I get to see the streets where my husband ran up and down when he was a kid. Like I was, and then like to see him, it was really good for our marriage because at that point we had been married almost 10 years. And
Mhm.
you go up and down. So nothing was bad. We were just like at a plateau. It was like us
Yeah,
20. And but when I tell you that leveled our marriage, like seeing him at home, seeing him with people that knew him from way back, you do not know your mate until you like witness them like where they were. I feel like for me, like where he was born, like his mom still lives in the same house. Um, his friends still live on the same street, like they still live in the same, so many people live in the same neighborhood. So that to me was surreal. But like for me feeling like I was going home, I didn't feel that, but my kids took to it like a fish to water.
wow.
Especially
That's
my,
good.
yeah, because I kept thinking like, man, I don't want to take the bratty American kids, telling, ew, that's stain. What's that? Like I just, and we had a conversation about it, like even here, because we have like Ghanaian friends, Nigerian friends, like we're always, they're not like not accustomed to like being around folks. So
Right.
like the accents, food, none of that was a big deal, but it does smell different. It looks different. So
Yeah.
we had a conversation beforehand, like, you don't automatically think you're better than just because something looks different. I'm not doing that. Something stinks. I'm hot. What like we'll take care of all of that, but don't get over here and embarrass us. And
Exactly.
it didn't. They were fine. Like my daughter and son were like running the streets, and my daughter went and got her hair braided, and my son sat with her. I mean, I wasn't, it was just like because these people had grown up with him, with my husband. So they
Yeah.
would see us walking, like, oh, okay, you're gonna go to auntie and get your hair braided tomorrow. And she's falling asleep in the chair and they're feeding her. My son's, went down to the barber by himself. Would go get bread at the bakery that my husband used to get bread at every morning.
Oh,
Yeah, so that part was really, I was so proud of them. Like there was none of that, there was none of that them looking like, that's nasty. Like what's that? Or why
yeah.
are they doing, there was like absolutely none of that, which I mean, like they knew not to not to push us, but they're human. So I kind of expected there to be like, a few times when they had to get checked, but they looked at my husband like he was a god. Like just to see him, we all were just like looking at him like, oh my God, he's so amazing. He's so
Yeah.
amazing. And my son was attached to, like he was my husband's shadow the whole time. He
Oh
wanted
my
to
goodness.
negotiate cab fare. He wanted to do money exchange. He wanted to go and I knew like he was seeing his dad in a completely different light.
Oh man. That
Yeah.
is that is so good. I
Mhm.
one of the things I always worry about is a lot of men who get married to a lot of Ghanaian men who get married to American women. Those women they have no interest in going to Ghana at all. And I'm like, how
Really?
yeah, that's like,
I've seen that. You're right. I've seen that. I have seen that.
they're like,
Yeah.
what I want to go over there for, and what it's like, what
I,
you married
I've
this
seen
man
it to
for?
I've seen it to where like I've asked someone like, oh, does your kid speak blah blah blah? Girl, he laughed when his daddy started speaking his language. And I like that would not go down in my household. Like
Oh
it would,
no, oh
it's not a
no,
game. If you ever meet my husband, like all of our friends tease about how he speaks tree. Like they say he speaks tree like an old man, like he speaks really old. And so he's very particular about, pronunciation and stuff. And for us, we're just like, we'll say a word. And he's like, no, that's not how you say it. Da, da, da. And there's like a lot of respect that like anything Ghanaian. So some of the very cavalier attitudes about it, I'm just like, man, I could not imagine that happening in my household. I couldn't imagine how he would feel if I said I didn't want to go. Like that's just,
right.
yeah, no, no. And I would feel some type of way about him if he said he didn't want to go. Because some women also like when my husband said he would never marry a Ghanaian woman. I think that's whack for you just to,
Right.
I think
Like,
that's a
why
little
would
whack.
you?
Yeah.
It's just like, to me, it's just like African American men who say they don't like African American women. Like, I
Yeah.
would never like, but your
My
mama
daddy is African
is
American, but I look like
right.
typical African American man. Yeah, I just
Exactly.
don't feel like that. So, but I do know that that's a big thing, but that makes you feel secure. And that is a dream, sweetheart. He's selling you a dream.
Exactly. And it's something that you said in our group one time that I was like, oh, I gotta talk to her. You said, how did you say it? You was like,
Oh, when I say
the
go accept bullshit when it's cloaked in Ankara and delivered with the accent.
yes.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
seems to me like that. I think that has to be the single most valid
Yeah.
statement that I have ever seen in
Mm-hmm.
all of these conversations. These women will accept anything as long as it's cloaked in Ankara and delivered with an accent.
Yeah.
And it's like, men are men worldwide. You got men that ain't shit. You got men that are absolutely amazing. And you got men that fall somewhere in between. Sometimes they ain't shit, and sometimes they're a really great person. And
Yeah.
I think that's where we all fall. Sometimes we
Yeah. It's the
just,
truth.
I mean, I ain't shit sometimes. And my husband, thankfully, he can see past the fact that I ain't shit sometimes. And it's the same thing with
You
it's
ain't
the same thing
lying.
with him. I mean, we just
Listen.
have to keep it real. I think a lot of times people uh fantasize over what it would be like to be with this man that's not from where they from. And they kind of, I think because of that, it's like they let all kind of shit go.
And they just elevate anything Ghanaian. And I don't understand that. So this is how I feel about it. Like you said, men are men. My husband is the best thing walking to me.
Right.
He also has his faults, but he's not the best thing walking just because he's Ghanaian. He's not
Right.
the best thing walking because he's better than African American men. He's just me. Like
He's your person.
he's my person, hands down. But I don't think that I never felt like I had to I don't know if I can cuss on here, but I didn't know feel like I didn't feel like I had to shit on every American man to like elevate him.
Exactly.
I just didn't, and I don't want him to think that it makes me feel good for him to shit on Ghana. Like I don't, that's not necessary. But like you always say, if you haven't, I met him when I was healed. Okay,
Yeah.
so it may have meant something else if I had gone to him when I was broken. Maybe I would have been attracted to the fact that he was I was would have been more attracted to the fact that he was Ghanaian. But if you go seeking a place, a man or friendship when you're not healed, you're gonna just pick out what you feel like are the best parts. You're
And
gonna
ignore all of the
and
bullshit.
ignore because I'm very fortunate that I like really get along with my in-laws. Like there it's when we're together, it's seamless. Like there's no jostling for position, there's no hierarchy. I have a very rich appreciation for Ghana and the culture. Like love, obviously. Love it. But I didn't lose myself. I don't want to be Ghanaian. That's another thing too. Like y'all want to start speaking with an accent and frying up shito. Like
Girl.
and that's not nothing wrong with frying up shito, but and people like,
Girl.
do you cook his food? No, I don't, because you know what? He doesn't need me to. If he wanted me to, because I'm his wife and I love to see his ass smile, I would. But he'd be mad at me for not doing some shit that he can't do for himself, if you know what I mean.
Right.
He, he's more concerned with me fulfilling the needs that he can't fulfill for himself. He likes to cook. I don't need to know. And it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm not in the culture, or I don't give a damn. It's far from that. Whenever we have an outing, the table is a fusion. Like there's soul food,
Right.
there's Ghanaian food, but I didn't have to lose myself to love him.
So I'm really
Sorry, I
glad you
got
brought that up.
tangent.
No. I'm really glad you brought that up
Because
because
that's my
that is
thing.
something that really bothers me.
Yeah.
Like I cringe at the idea that, you hear women say, oh, you got to immerse yourself in his culture.
Yeah.
And you got, like, it's like they want if he want a Ghanaian woman, he'll go and be with a Ghanaian woman.
Yes.
Like, why
They're not. You just need to appreciate it and you need to respect it and then incorporate it. Like you see my house now, like it's everything. When people walk in here, they know that there's an intercultural couple. But would he love for me to learn how to speak Tree? Yeah, but he knows that he's way too particular to teach me. Somebody else would have to teach me. There are a lot of words that I know. I get context. And when we had our wedding, I didn't do regular table numbers. I did oh God, the symbols. I just drew a blank.
Adinkra.
Adinkra symbols. So I included a lot because I don't want to be Ghanaian. And when people say that they can't find, when women say that they don't have any real Ghanaian friends, that's probably the reason, because you're not authentic.
Yeah, it's true.
And that, like for me, I have very close Ghanaian friends, women like that I've met through my husband, and I know things about them now that he doesn't know because they're my friends. But and they'll tell you, "Oh, you're an honorary Ghanaian," but they know I don't want to be. I don't want to be
Yeah,
Ghanaian. They know that I'm like what I look like wanting to be Ghanaian, and my mama. That's like poo-pooing on my mama.
exactly. And I think that's one of the things that really bothers me. I'm like, first of all, like, sis, you trying too hard. Like you
Too
really doing too
hard.
much. You doing too
Too
much.
hard. And then
Like,
saying you're dressing African, like, girl, these African women are wearing European labels. What do you mean you're dressing
so I just love the fact that, I think once you've been in this kind of relationship for a long enough time, you get and you see stuff from the outside. It's just like, sis, like, why are you playing yourself? Like, you have a rich culture, and as a Southerner, I felt
African?
like my going to Ghana really made me appreciate
Yes.
who I am
Yes.
and where I come from even more.
It helped me
Um,
connect the dots.
it helped you connect the dots.
It
And
helped
it's
me
like,
connect the dots. Yeah.
oh, okay, this is
This,
this and that is that. This is why.
this is
You
why we
see
fall
it.
out at funerals, because we're chief mourning.
Girl,
That's why we falling out at
that's
funerals.
how we do it. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
And that's why we party the way we do after the funeral. After you done did all that hooping and hollering
Thank
and crying,
you.
now you at the repast having drinks
Baby.
and eating and talking and laughing and having a good time. Right?
And then you know how, like, so when we talk about things being more formal and expected, so let's talk about funerals. When in the state down south, I'm just going to say down south, I'm sure it happens up north too. Somebody passes away, black family, somebody passes away, we're taking toilet paper, money, foil, we're taking a bunch of
Food.
stuff to the house. So what happens in Ghanaian culture? You getting cashed out.
Yep.
But the
Yep.
thing is, they're paying attention to who cashed them out. And God forbid you don't cash them out. And then nothing's wrong with that, but that's where it came from.
That's where it comes from. And
yeah.
I think that too many times people just don't just appreciate. Just
Yeah.
appreciate it. You don't have to alter who you try to alter who you are. Just appreciate the culture. But at the same time, is your husband appreciating your culture?
Okay. So that is one thing that we had our first big, like, oh, what the hell is going on here argument. So I was a new mom, my first Mother's Day. And mind you, they do holidays different. Like, it's just not a big birthday. It's not a big deal. Christmas is like, don't ask me what I want. That makes me uncomfortable. So for Mother's Day, I didn't say what I wanted, but it was my first Mother's Day. This man took me, and one of our friends, she's Ghanaian, had a baby like right after me. So my husband is known as a cook, like in our friend circle. So she wanted this dish. And I'm like, well, okay. So we went to their house. He cooked her this dish, her and her family this dish. And I'm like, okay, like we're hanging out together. We're first time moms. But he didn't get me anything for Mother's Day. Not a handprint from my baby.
Baby.
So while I wasn't upset about us going to this other couple's house, and him cooking a meal, it was a cumulative. You didn't get me anything. And you cooking for another mom on Mother's Day. So I don't know how I was calm, but when I tell you I broke it down to him, I was like, you have the luxury, because I would always overhear him saying, like, man, like she really loves the culture. She's just so considerate about including things. Just talked about the wedding and how I pick up on certain things and how I made her home. I said, you have the luxury of running all over town telling people that. And I have the luxury of telling people you did not give me anything for Mother's Day, my first Mother's Day. So I'm like, that is part of my culture. You also need to respect and he didn't get it until then. And I've never had to say it again.
See, you sound like you're a much better communicator than I am.
That was the blood of Jesus.
Because baby, let me tell you something. And it's still like, I guess I kind of just accepted that it is what it is. But for my first Mother's Day with my husband, when that didn't bring me nothing, baby, I almost had a heart attack. I was like, how could you? How could you? I have your baby.
Girl, I said, you could have put some paint on my baby's hand and put it on a piece of paper.
Something.
And I did go off and I was like, and don't you dare come back with anything from me. And you make sure you tell my dad.
Let me tell you, I told this man, this my husband said to me, he said, but you're not my mother.
Yes, but I know a lot of people that are like that. Yeah. That ain't gonna fly with me.
He was like, you're not my mother, you're their mother. I was like,
well, you better make sure they get me something.
Right, you have to make sure they get me something. So that it's all,
I communicated good about that. Don't I am a I am a rah-rah mama.
Girl, I
But
think
we
that
did
comes with
have
our
to,
culture.
yeah, but we did have to have like I remember one time, I forget there was something I wanted, and I was just being real easy about getting it. But I made because I don't need bags and all that
Yeah.
type of stuff. But if I ask for something or say I want something, then that's a cue because if I'm asking, then you know. So I had asked for something or said I wanted something, and he had come back with an iPad for it was something he didn't need right away, but it was I remember like it was a lot of money for us at the time. When I tell you I did not speak to him for like a week, and I'm just like, I don't know what your problem is, but I made it like, no, I don't know how, I don't care how you were raised. I always tease him about being a robot. You're very black and white. You're not really in tune to your feelings. If that's okay for you, that's fine, but I need you to get in tune with my feelings.
Exactly. I need
I
you to
need
come
you to,
with it.
I need you to get
Because
in. So he's a lot better now. He definitely needs reminding. Um, but and people will say that, Ghanaian men, well, because I don't know why people always expect Americans to fawn over their culture and acclimate, but then they don't want to have to do. So I don't really like that. And it's not really a big issue, but I can see sometimes it's like, I'll see other women make that excuse. Well, you know how African men are, girl. They just don't like to. Well, that's not okay.
and see that kind of stuff really freaking bothers me. Like, why is it that you're supposed to do all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on,
Mm-hmm.
baby. What you drinking, girl?
Water.
I need a little bit of that.
She said, "Baby."
Could you hear him?
Yeah. I mean, I can hear somebody talk.
Yeah. See, this is why I pre-record. You see, now I have to. But it seems like it just seems to me like the women are they like bending over backwards, literally breaking their back and not expecting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, everybody got to bend. Like, you bend a little, we bend a little.
Like you can't think that your culture is better than, like, it's just not. It's just that's not cool. That's
It's
just
not
not.
cool.
It's not cool at all. Yeah.
It's
And
not
then
cool.
some people have the argument like we don't have culture. Well, if I feel like if that's how you feel, maybe that'll work for you, but that's not how I feel.
I absolutely hate that. Every time I hear somebody say we don't have a culture, I literally want to go and pluck out their eyelashes and snatch their throat out. Like, how could you say something like that? We have been, while we are 400-500 years removed from Africa, so to speak, how you think for 400 years we haven't created a culture? Like, we have taken and built on and around what we have. That's our culture. And as a Southerner,
Yeah.
I take offense to a motherfucker saying that I don't have no culture. I have a very strong and very rich culture. It's so many little things that we don't even understand is culture.
Yeah.
And like you said though, if you feel like you don't have a culture, then maybe that's why.
But that's how people get got too, because you're going looking for a dream, and if you want a dream, somebody in Ghana can sell your ass a dream.
Oh, they can sell you a dream. Somebody in Ghana will sell it to you. Somebody in Jamaica will sell it to you. Somebody in South America will sell it to you.
But somebody in America then sold it to you. You just didn't. It just didn't have on Ankara, and it didn't have an accent.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
exactly.
You can get a dream. I just think that like in some instances the self-awareness is lacking, and anytime you elevate yourself or let somebody else put themselves on a pedestal, and you feel like you're okay with the crimes, or you're the only one that has to acclimate, like you're just asking for trouble.
I
Like
totally.
I don't understand it. Like I feel like you don't have to love being in America. You can have it's a complicated for me, it's a complicated love. But
It is.
this is where I skinned my knee. This is where I learned how to ride a bike. Had my first love affair, all of that. So I can't say that we have work to do, but there's still like a love that I have here that Ghana could never give me.
And
It just
for me, it's the total. I won't say it's the total opposite. Like I, I can't stand it here, but it's a different kind of love affair that I have with this place. This is my home. This is where I grown up. My mother was raised here. My grandmother was raised here. We have generations here. I have, my grand, like everything that I know
is
and
here.
everything that I am comes from me being born and raised here. Now, while I spend my time in Ghana and then I spend my time here, and I am much more in a much more peaceful place there. Mentally, I'm more it's just better for me there. This is still my home too, too. So I have to always add two, which is why from the very beginning, my husband and I had decided that we would live on both sides of the world. Because at the end of the day, my family is here. I can't move my whole family to Ghana.
Yeah.
And they ain't getting up and moving to Ghana. So I have decided that, being here sometimes after a couple of months, it does get to be a lot for me. But that's why I'll take a little break and run to Ghana for a little while and get me a little break from here. But when I'm staying in Ghana for long periods of time, I need a break from them.
I think I need to go back when I don't have like any obligations, because I can tell you being in Accra was a lot for me. But I guess I need to visit again with a different mindset, because really this time it was really about me. When I tell you, like seeing my husband dealing and like doing business, and then in that damn cloth.
Yeah. Ain't that sexy, wasn't it? Ain't it sexy?
So it really
quite
like,
sexy.
I'm just like, oh my God, like I really, and I mean, just seeing my kids is looking at him, because we've never seen him like that. Like we know he handles business, like he's the hero of our household. But I mean, dude was like moving and shaking, and it's like it wasn't a fraud. Like it wasn't
right.
He was catching up with people, and then seeing his friends, and like, oh, like your people are really, and he doesn't brag, but I'm like, your people are really doing things over here. So that was, and then like there was like a lot of family obligations, with the memorial. But when we went to Abitifi, I felt home there. Like we went to the village, and I was like,
because it feel country, don't it? It feel like you back in the country.
Yeah, and I felt like, so his father obviously passed away, but I felt like I met his father the day that I saw the house he built in the village. I wrote about it I'll have to send you a post that I made about it, but I felt like
you did send it. I think you posted it in our group. I remember.
Maybe, yeah, but I felt like, oh, like I know his dad now, and I wish I'd had like 2 weeks there. I wish I just had time to just like chill the whole time, but I actually left feeling like, so we talk about racism here and being oppressed, but I feel like there, when people talk about, you have household help, you have chauffeurs, well, that's because that there's a poorer class is being taken advantage of.
Classism.
It's a different ism. So I was very disenchanted. I was very disenchanted by that, and for a long time, I was in my feelings about it. I'm like, I don't think I could get used to that. And just this summer, I came to terms with it, because I really didn't talk about it too much, because it just sounded crazy to even say that. Like, well, yeah, I can't get used to the classism. And somebody told me, a stranger told me this. She's like, well, you living pretty well with racism. And I was like, that's what I was looking for. Thank you very much. I'll
You
be booking
know,
my next flight back.
for me, when I first moved to Ghana, I got there, I met other wives from different, not just African American wives. I had one friend that was African American, and everybody else was either Ghanaian or Ghanaian British or whatever. And by that time, people had house help and all of that stuff. And for me, being from the South, it was really hard to digest
Yeah.
that part of it, because of the, we've seen what servitude looks like, and we know what it we've, like, I had an aunt who was a maid for some white folks in South Georgia, and I remember going with her to work, and just seeing how that goes. It just, I was a kid, and it put a
Yeah.
really sour taste in my mouth. So for a very long time, I just wouldn't get with it. I would, nope, I'm not with it. And then when we moved, while we were there and trying to clean every day and trying to
Yeah.
do the things that I needed to do, trying to take care of the kids, it was a lot. Cleaning in Ghana was totally different from cleaning here. Like, you literally could sweep the floor 10 times a day and get the same amount of dirt. It was just, because it's so dusty, and or certain times of year is really dusty. And it took me, I had all of the time the women would be saying, listen, you need to get some house help, like, you need to get some help. And I'm like, I can't. And then when I lived in Guinea for almost 2 years, and I had to have a nanny and I had to have a maid. I had to, because I spent my whole day from 6 a.m. to late in the evening. I was working on my business, and I didn't have time for the other things. So I had to have a nanny. I took my small girl with me, and the way that freed up so much of the pressure and the quality of life, the difference in the quality of life, and then changing my thinking, and like, okay, we're in a place where it's hard to get work. So I'm actually giving somebody a job. Okay. It just, so at that point I had two people that worked as staff for me. And they were like personal assistants. So then I had a friend of mine who lives in Ghana now and has a son. She doesn't call her house help a house help. She calls them house assistant. And I thought that made it much more humanizing.
Yeah.
And it made me feel much better about hiring somebody, and it wasn't on a subservient level. It was more on you're helping me to make sure that I can do the things that I need to do, and in turn I'm compensating you for that help, which allows you to help your own family.
Because if not, so what I'm realizing too, there are things that we go there and we want to do differently, but it's like you're disrupting something because you feel like you know better, right?
Exactly.
And that's coming from a place of arrogance. It really
is.
And we don't realize it, but so it's really making even something as simple as, I remember Felix was negotiating in the market. I'm like, why are we negotiating? Like, just pay the people. And he was like, no, because you're disrupting like
the
local
norms.
prices. Yeah, the norms. And then also he's like, you'll be made a mark. Like people are watching you spending and how you're moving, like that could get you into. So I'm like, even though like I had ill feelings, I'm just like, man, I can't imagine my kids wanting to play with somebody and it's like, oh no, because that's the maid's kids or something, just like things like that were just kind of, it was really, really different. But I'm sure I'm living with it now. I'm living with that's kind of, but I think that what people don't explain is just like it's just a different rabbit with a gun over there.
It is definitely a different rabbit with the same gun.
Yep.
Because it's a dynamic that us coming from the backgrounds that we typically come from, it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around it. And then understanding how, I think when you understand how this helps your quality of life and it helps the
Yeah.
other person's quality of life,
Mhm.
then you know it's easier to swallow than when you're looking at it we look at it from the how the racism was done here. But it's like at the end of the day, I'm not gonna move to Ghana and change the classism. I'm not gonna be able to change that. But that doesn't mean that I have to treat people ugly.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that you have to you should be fair all the time. Like treat people the way you would want to be treated. That's what I started doing. And now I'm like, hell, I can't live in Ghana without having help, because
there's no way. I already know. And the thing is, that's how the system is set up. Like just like in America, it's set up for you not to need help. Like everybody has a car. There's 100 stores within a mile radius. So it's not set up. There's just so many things. It's not really set up for you to necessarily for the masses to need help. Everything, but we outsource all types of things. Like people outsource their lawn care. People outsource dinner every night.
Yeah.
So it's just when I wrap my mind around it like that, I'm like, okay.
It is. I like the way you put that. It's outsourcing services, and I mean, why not?
Yeah.
But with all that said, what would you say if you have any advice that you could give to a woman or a person who's getting into a relationship, this intercultural relationship, that you think if you would have known that beforehand, it probably would have helped you?
I would say before I would get involved with somebody romantically, I would probably make sure that I have like some friends, some true friends, or just somebody trusted. Like you can really get to know that culture, if at all possible. But also, we talk a lot about trusting our mate, but like, can you trust yourself? Get to a point where you can trust yourself making good decisions, because that's like my biggest takeaway. Like I was at a place where I could trust myself. Like I knew that I was not really up for any BS. So as far as like protecting my heart, I made sure I was in a place where I could protect myself. As far as like making it all work, just be open and like be committed to like loving yourself as much as you love your mate. I was really sensitive in the beginning. There were so many times people said things that hurt my feelings. But had I had more friends that were Ghanaian, I probably would have just taken it with a grain of salt. It sounds cliche, but like just be open for the ride. It is a ride. Be firm. If y'all make it to marriage, be firm on how you run your household, and establish that, like how you run your household. I'm not a Ghanaian woman. My mom taught me how to run a house. I think it would be foolish and quite disrespectful for me to run my house how somebody else came in and told me to run my house.
Right.
I'm very particular about that. It hasn't been an issue, but I'm very particular about that. But you can do that and still have respect. Like if I'm hosting somebody, I mean, there's just certain things I'm going to do because I know it makes you comfortable. So I don't have a problem. And because I know you're not going to come in and like turn my house upside down.
Right.
But also get to know the same things you should do when you're like marrying somebody within your own culture. Like there's like a list of questions you should ask somebody before you get married. Like how would you handle certain issues? Yes. Please answer those questions beforehand. Because that's a lot of those things are deal breakers. So
absolutely. I want to thank you so much for taking out the time to join me today. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. So refreshing to get some real candid you know, just not so, because I think so often people feel like they have to make Ghana or Ghanaians seem like they're holier than thou or something. I don't
You don't
know.
have to do that, and you don't have to demonize it. Like you can
And
just,
you don't have to demonize. Like
it's
it just
populated by
is what it
humans.
is.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
humans, or we, yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. I thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
If if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. You can like, share, subscribe, share some more, so more people can get to see and understand what it's like to be married to a Ghanaian. Kim, it has been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Send my greetings to your family, and you have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.